While working on the removal of rubble, many institutions, many workers realized that rubble is not a uniform mass of detritus, but actually it can be recovered, it can be reused. There are parts of it, like bricks, which can be used again in construction. And this fact became an object of architectural expertise in the late 1940s. In 1946, within Warsaw Reconstruction Office, an autonomous Rubble unit was established, and architects working there published a report in the end of that year, a report which suggested that, of course, rubble can be seen as detritus, but actually we can benefit from re-evaluating it as a source of building materials, because those materials which can be recovered from rubble, materials which can be produced by processing rubble, can sustain the reconstruction of Warsaw until the end of 1940s. And this coincides with the introduction of new decrees, among them the decree which regulates the use of land in Warsaw, expropriating private owners in the city, and the other decree, the decree of demolitions, which regulated the way in which buildings damaged and destroyed during the war should be renovated or demolished. And this decree allowed the state institutions to organize demolitions when the owner of the building could not be found. And this decree, together with the report of architects, established an alternative source of building materials, established rubble as an alternative source of building materials. And this introduced new subjects of discussion and debate among architects. That is, for example, how the demolitions should be organized. And on the left side of the room, you can see photographs and works depicting different types of demolition works. On the first three photos, you can see the most often used technique of demolition, demolition with the use of rope, in which the metal rope was attached to the wall of the building or part of the building, and several people were using it to tear that part down. However, as Roman Piotrowski, the director of Warsaw Reconstruction Office, showed in his report from 1946, this method was not only dangerous for people working on the demolition site, but also it was most damaging to the materials which could be recovered from the demolition sites. And therefore, he proposed that all the institutions undertaking public works move to manual demolition, in which buildings are demolished brick by brick, because while this takes a lot of time, it also brings back a lot of materials. And among those materials were mainly bricks. Bricks which you can see in the central part of the room. Those bricks come from different brickworks in pre-war Warsaw. And this we know because of the signatures which those brickworks embossed in those rectangular building materials. And those signatures allow us also to see hundreds and learn about hundreds of brickworks which populated the Warsaw's landscape before the war, brickworks which never returned to life after the Second World War. Among them, brickworks run by the Jewish population of the city. So in the center of the table, you can see a brick with the signature Halber Marki. This was a brickwork in the town near Warsaw, which was run by Shulim Halber, a Jewish industrialist of the 1920s and 30s. And those bricks, recovered from the demolitions of ruins in Warsaw, became a crucial source of building material for the state reconstruction effort between 1947 and 1949. This was the first period of planned economy in Poland, period during which both state, cooperative and private firms could coexist. And during that period, already in the beginning, it became apparent to the state administration, specifically employees of Ministry of Reconstruction, that there will be a deficit of bricks. While the ambitions of the plan were large, it was clear that the bricks are scarce and there will be no material to build with. And therefore, in 1948, the state established a new institution, a so-called winter action of demolition. And this was the action which was to be undertaken in all the cities across Poland, and it was meant to employ people during winter months. And during the action, buildings destroyed or damaged by the war were to be demolished in order to recover bricks which could supply the state reconstruction effort. And the outcomes of the action proved the most successful in the cities of so-called Western territories or recovered territories, which were transferred to Poland from Germany in the wake of Potsdam and Yalta agreements. Those cities such as Wrocław, Breslau or Stettin, in those cities the state had no limits in terms of managing the damaged buildings. In Warsaw, it was different since many buildings, many ruins and buildings had owners, had inhabitants and couldn't be demolished. In cities in the Western territories, the previous owners, German owners, were expropriated and driven outside of Poland, and the city administration could manage organizing large-scale demolitions and, in the end of 1940s, transforming those cities into mines of bricks, millions of which were then distributed across Poland from Warsaw to Nowa Huta near Krakow. While many building materials which you see on the exhibition come from the collection of Museum of Warsaw, the bricks presented in this room come mainly from my own private collection of bricks. I've gathered them across Warsaw in the parks and green areas. And while you walk Warsaw, you can also encounter them in many places. Since the rubble after the war was distributed around the city, and today usually persists in those forms of landscape which we usually associate with parks and recreation areas. And I encourage you to look for those bricks since their histories, as you heard, are quite fascinating.